Welcome to Rage Quit. I think it is fair to say the gaming industry is a far cry from what it once was. Get it? Ubisoft has moved forward with cancelling their Far Cry extraction shooter. Maybe they finally decided to open their eyes and read the room. People are getting bored of extraction shooters. The market is already oversaturated with them. Instead, they are putting full focus on the next Far Cry mainline title. Codenamed Blackbird, the next game of the series is rumored to take place in Alaska. The world will have a cold and dark feel to it with dangerous wildlife, something the last game was desperately lacking. A cult by the name of Sons of Truth will be the main focus. You will be tasked with rescuing 6 people that have been kidnapped by the cult. Similar to Far Cry 5 and 6, there will be an option to play through the story in a co-op mode. Something new to the series will be an in-game timer. You will have 24 hours, 72 hours in-game, to beat the campaign, creating a sense of urgency for the players to obtain the captives. The game is aiming to be set for release in 2027. I will tell you one thing, if the game is anything like the last, I will not be playing it. Far Cry 6 was such a boring and massive disappointment for me coming fresh off playing 5. I never even finished it. I gave up after a few hours. The story itself was boring. There was nothing about it that captivated me to want to know what happens next. The changes to the gameplay mechanics felt like I was playing an entirely different series. Who thought those lame Supremo backpacks was a good idea? The world itself was bland, boring, and lifeless. There was no wildlife to be found and no sense of danger at all. Don't even get me started with the NPCs being dumber than a box of rocks. The story was meant to have a Latin American setting and vibe to it, but everything about it just came off as cringe, forced, and woke. It mocked Latin America if anything. I don't know whose ideas were behind this game, but because of it, I am viewing the next game with massive amounts of skepticism. I am not the only one getting fed up with the direction they took their games either. If we look at Ubisoft's spending and earnings from the last few years, it is bleak. Starting with Far Cry 6, the numbers aren't so clear. Some guess the game cost them around $500 million to make. The budget and the earnings were never publicly shared. We do know they made $72 million on Steam. But this was before revenue shares and refunds were accounted for, leaving Ubisoft at a revenue stream of only $21 million. Skull and Bones came out a few years after and cost Ubisoft upward of $850 million to make. Want to guess how much it made? Just over $2.3 million was made on Steam. Again, not accounting for revenue shares or refunds. The true total loss of this game isn't even made public anywhere, that is how bad it is. This is cited as the biggest flop in video game history, right up there with Concord. Later that same year, Star Wars Outlaws was released and it cost Ubisoft roughly $300 million to make. They only made $70 million from that game when they were expecting profit from it. Last year they dropped Assassin's Creed Shadows, which cost them roughly $350 million to make, not including marketing. Marketing was likely an additional $100 million or more. The game made them just over $180 million. Again, another loss with no profit. Now I am not a math wizard, but holy shit, are they bleeding money. Based on the numbers I could find, not including the hidden costs or losses on other games, these last few years cost them well over $2 billion. Just this past year alone, they lost $1.5 billion, which likely means their losses are even worse than some have estimated. Even with their remake of Black Flag, they still were operating at a massive loss. Between poor budgeting, horrible creative decisions, focusing more on messaging than actual fan bases. Is it any wonder they are bleeding money? As I said, I will be approaching Far Cry 7 with heavy skepticism, as should you. Ubisoft should be desperate for a win, but after this many flops in a row, I have to wonder if they actually learned anything. Some say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Maybe Ubisoft is just f***ing insane.